When Jayson Tatum went down clutching his Achilles during the Eastern Conference semifinals in May of 2025, the entire NBA paused.
And that's the final timeout for the Boston Celtics, but more importantly,
everyone was waiting for the Boston Celtics to finally crack. Key pieces dropping, their best player sidelined indefinitely, a long recovery timeline with no guaranteed return date. For the other 29 franchises in this league, that scenario would have been the perfect excuse to wave the white flag, to collect their lottery odds, and pivot to the next season while pretending it was the plan all along. But the Celtics did not do that. These guys don't tank, and frankly, they didn't even flinch. Instead, you have Jaylen Brown who stepped up and took over. There's just something deeper about this organization. Something in their mentality that's been built over decades. Their competitive edge did not disappear just because their best player went down. They didn't care that people were questioning whether the Celtics could survive without Tatum. So the question becomes, how does a franchise produce this kind of response so consistently that it's almost a routine for them? Why do these guys never tank? Why do they keep winning even when everyone doubts them? And the answer to that requires us to go back further and look at the history of the Celtics franchise. You see, in the modern NBA, the culture is very fragile. It's actually embarrassingly fragile, especially for certain franchises. A lot of them, if they lose their superstar or they even change a code, they instantly reset to zero. Because many of these teams, their entire identity is built around one massive ego. And when that ego walks out the door, there's nothing left holding the walls up. The Boston Celtics are the rare exception to that pattern. What makes them so different is not something that you can just put on a spreadsheet. It's a collective blueprint that transfers across generations. You start with Doc Rivers, who coached this team from the 2004 to 2013 era and made the Big Three a thing. Then you have Brad Stevens, who arrived in 2013 and spent 8 years installing a mindset of relying on a system and having a sustainable system that isn't dependent on a mega superstar. Then you have Ime Udoka, who injected sheer nastiness into the team, the kind of nastiness that allowed them to reach the 2022 final. And then Joe Mazzulla stepped in and became the youngest head coach to win a championship since Bill Russell in 1969. Of course, the Celtics lineage goes back way further than that, but I wanted to focus on the modern era because each coach who sat on the bench inherited something real, and they passed it forward without destroying what came before. You rarely see that happen with other NBA franchises. This even happened with the players. They went from Kevin Garnett, who handed the torch to Jaylen Brown, who was then joined by Jayson Tatum. They just transitioned from one era to another almost seamlessly. Garnett was traded to the Nets in the summer of 2013. Jaylen Brown was drafted in 2016.
Also stand as good as he is looking at the guard. Even if that guard is projected.
The Celtics bloodline just flowed through the franchise itself. Today, Jaylen Brown is the living embodiment of what the Boston Celtics franchise is about. His energy and professionalism is on another level. He's confident in his abilities. That's why he took over when everyone doubted the Celtics when Jayson Tatum went down. But he doesn't have an ego, and he understands that the collective mission is the only thing that matters. That's why the Celtics culture is so good, because you have Jaylen Brown, who stepped up as the leader, but you have young players like Jordan Wall, Peyton Pritchard, who also stepped up when needed. That's what a proper, well-run franchise does.
Mitchell Robinson not available once again for the Knicks. High arcing three, and Hauser.
Because you see, the Boston Celtics, they treat tanking like it's a disease. That's why they operate at a completely different level than everybody else. In Boston, tanking is not a strategy. For these guys, it's a toxic substance that poisons everything it touches. And the organization refuses to even talk about it. Because the hidden cost of tanking is that an organization essentially learns how to accept losing. You give the players permission to lose on purpose. Effort becomes optional. And when you try and flip that switch back and compete again, it's very difficult to do so. Take the 2014-2015 season. Just 1 year after only getting 25 wins, the Celtics clawed back to a 40-42 record and punched a playoff ticket. Most organizations in that position would stay down in order to get better draft picks. Boston refused, and the following season they hit 48 wins under Brad Stevens and Isaiah Thomas, proving that they didn't need to wait for reinforcements to start competing.
Hardy keeping his hands up and not fouling. I think Walsh got hit in the face. He's behind the plate.
Fast forward to now, and you have Jayson Tatum, who's back, and the Celtics are once again sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference. 29 other teams would have used this as a tanking year. I mean, just look at the Indiana Pacers. A couple of players lost to injuries, and these guys went from being in the finals of the NBA to the bottom of the Eastern Conference. That's just not how the Boston Celtics operate. They have a system that makes everyone better. Because in an era that's obsessed with heliocentric offenses, like the Lakers, the Celtics use a different approach. Like if the Lakers lost Luka, or the Timberwolves lost lost ants. The whole structure would fail. Boston's system is different. The system is almost ironclad. You can plug and play different players, and the system will actually elevate them instead of crashing down. Because Missoula ball comes down to basically 3 core ingredients. It's about spacing, 3-point volume, and versatile switch defending. During the 2024-2025 season, when the Celtics defended their championship, they set records averaging 48.2 3-point attempts per game and converting 17.8 of them.
Hauser comes up with it. Tatum on the drive once again, gets to the rim.
3 separate players eclipsed 200 made threes on the season, so they weren't relying on one guy to carry the offensive load. The system was about distributing the shots across the entire roster. Now, volume alone obviously does not create a winning culture, otherwise anybody that throws up threes would automatically win. What makes the system so good is that the players accept their roles. Someone like Sam Hauser knows that his job is to be in the corner, to shoot when he's open. Then another player like Pritchard knows that his job is to push the pace. He still has to stretch the floor, but he can also play make. These guys know when to shoot the ball and when to make that extra pass. So they'll pull the trigger without hesitation on the perimeter, but they're not just shooting for fun. If the extra pass is on, if they need to play make, they know how to do that. I mean, the perfect example is Derek White. That guy does a little bit of everything.
And here's White with 2 seconds. It'll count on it. D. White with a little dynamite.
So when Tatum went down, Jaylen Brown did not just try and become a one-man show, even though on some nights that's what it looked like. Sure, he became the face of the franchise again, but he was not playing hero ball. He was just being the main guy within the system itself. He posted career-high numbers. He was phenomenal. A great two-way player. But the system elevated the star, not the other way around. He had a lot of help while playing the best basketball of his career. Now, the part that gets overlooked the most consistently when people analyze the Boston Celtics is that the culture does not just start on the basketball court. It actually starts in their front office. In 2021, when Danny Ainge stepped away, Brad Stevens made the transition from head coach to the president of basketball operations, and he's become that stoic architect of this franchise. He's brought that calm, analytical approach that he had as a coach, and he's now using it in the front office. Like, he's a nice guy, but he's incredibly ruthless when he has to be. In June of 2023, he shipped Marcus Smart out of town, and Marcus Smart was not just any normal player on the Celtics. For many people, he was the heart of that franchise, the emotional core of the team, the fan favorite who embodied the toughness and grit that Boston played with. For most GMs, he would have been irreplaceable, but Brad Stevens knew that he had to make that move to elevate the ceiling of this team. That's why he ended up bringing in Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, and those two became decisive pieces that helped in the championship run. They helped Banner 18 go up in TD Garden. Moves like that reminded everyone in the entire organization that no one is bigger than the Boston Celtics as a whole. It also showed that Brad did not care about fan favorites and emotional attachments, and that ruthless clarity is what separates a proper ran basketball operation from the garbage that we see other franchises run. Most franchises only build 1 or 2 years of high-level basketball. Boston has been doing it for almost a decade, and the result is a franchise where winning is the default state. Losing is unacceptable in Boston, and that's why the Celtics remain terrifying even when their entire core wasn't healthy. Even when they were short-handed, they were playing great basketball. Even when they were being doubted, they were still winning games. The narrative was that they should have been struggling, but they showed that their culture and system is way bigger than just one individual. Now, of course, with Tatum back, Boston gets better. That's just natural. But they have an incredible culture. They are so well built, and now with Tatum back, they've gone from a nice story to becoming once again favorites to win the NBA title.